AITA for refusing to take my wife back after she left me when I was broke. It all started when I lost my job. I'd worked for over a decade at the same company, climbing the ladder, making myself indispensable to my team. But as often happens in corporations, one day they decided to make cuts, and my position was eliminated. They let me go with a decent severance package, but not enough to keep me afloat indefinitely. The worst part was that my wife didn't take the news well. Instead of supporting me or offering encouragement, her attitude changed overnight. At first, I thought she was worried, scared of the uncertainty. But no, what really bothered her wasn't my emotional state, but the financial one. She started making passive-aggressive comments about my inability to provide for us. She stopped being affectionate and little by little became cold and distant. I knew it right away. She wasn't happy with me. She was happy with the stability my salary provided. I tried to find a job immediately, but the economy wasn't doing well, and I couldn't find anything decent. I started doing freelance work, but it wasn't enough. Meanwhile, my wife complained more and more. One day, after a heated argument about the bills we had to pay, she uttered a phrase that broke me inside. I don't want to spend the rest of my life with a loser. I didn't answer her. What could I say to someone who had just proven that she never really loved me? I went to sleep on the couch that night feeling like the most miserable man in the world. Things went from bad to worse. She started coming home late, dressed in a way I'd never seen her before, wearing a different perfume. It wasn't hard to imagine what was happening. Finally, a month after I was laid off, she sat me down on the sofa and without any remorse told me, I want a divorce. She didn't cry. She didn't seem affected in the slightest. She was determined, as if this had been her plan for weeks. She told me she had met someone else, someone with financial stability, a man who could give her the life I, at that moment, couldn't. The worst part wasn't that she left me, but that she did it as if our relationship had meant nothing. I left the house we shared, taking only the essentials. I wasn't in the right headspace to discuss the division of assets or to fight for anything. I was completely defeated. After leaving the house, I found myself in a situation I never thought I'd experience. I had nowhere to go. My pride prevented me from returning to my parents or asking friends for help. I wanted to prove I could get by on my own, that I didn't need anyone's pity. I settled into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town and started planning my next steps. The first thing I did was focus completely on finding a job. I sent my resume everywhere, contacted old colleagues, and reviewed every possible opportunity. But nothing seemed to work out. It was frustrating. I woke up early every day, checked my emails, hoping for some positive response, but all I received were rejections or absolute silence. Meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking about my wife, or rather, my ex-wife, because deep down, I knew there was no going back. I thought about how she had left without even looking back, how she had changed from one moment to the next. At night, memories of our life together tormented me. Dinners at home, trips, shared laughter. But every time I remembered the contempt in her voice when she told me, I don't want to spend the rest of my life with a loser, all the nostalgia turned into rage and resentment. With the little money I had left, I had to manage my expenses with surgical precision. I stopped eating in restaurants, feeding myself with the cheapest things I could find in the supermarket. I spent my days at the public library, using the free Wi-Fi to continue sending job applications. Sometimes I wondered how it was possible that my life had fallen apart so quickly. And then, as if the humiliation hadn't been enough, I discovered something that completely destroyed me. One night, while aimlessly browsing social media, I saw a photo that left me paralyzed. My ex-wife was at a fancy restaurant, dressed in an elegant red dress she had never worn with me. Beside her, an older man in an impeccable suit and an arrogant smile. My blood boiled. Not only had she left me for another man, but she hadn't even waited a reasonable amount of time. She was showing off with him as if nothing had happened, as if she had never been married to me. That night, for the first time in a long time, I stopped feeling sad and started feeling angry. Not just with her, but with myself. How had I allowed someone like that to have so much power over me? How had I been so blind? I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't let this downfall define the rest of my life. That morning, I woke up with a completely different mindset. If I couldn't find a job, then I would create one myself. I had spent years working in my field. I had experience, skills, and contacts. It was time to stop begging for opportunities and build something of my own. The first thing I did was make a list of my strengths. I knew I was talented in my industry and knew the market well. So I started researching opportunities to start a business, even with limited resources. With the little money I had left, I rented a co-working space for a month. From there, I built a website, contacted former clients, and started offering services as an independent consultant. The beginning was tough. Weeks went by without anyone responding, without closing a single deal. But little by little, with effort and persistence, I started getting clients. Nothing big at first, just small projects that helped me pay the bills. Every dollar I earned, I reinvested. I attended events, made calls, sent emails. I became my own boss, working tirelessly to make sure my life wouldn't depend on someone else's stability again. Meanwhile, my ex-wife went on with her life as if nothing had happened. Through mutual friends, I learned that she was living with a man she had cheated on me with, a guy with a lot of money, a huge house, and a luxurious life. It seemed like everything had worked out perfectly for her. But life has a peculiar way of settling scores. 6 months after she left me, my business was growing faster than I ever imagined. I had landed major contracts, and my monthly income already exceeded the salary I had at my old job. Not only had I recovered, but I was in a better position than I had ever been. I had money in the bank, stability, and the satisfaction of having achieved it on my own. And it was right then when my ex-wife decided to reappear in my life. I received an unexpected message on my phone. "Hi, how have you been?" I ignored it. I had nothing to say to her. 2 days later, another message. "I heard you're doing well. I'm so glad. Would you like to meet up to catch up?" I laughed out loud when I read it. I couldn't believe her nerve. Catch up? After she walked all over me when I needed her most? I ignored my ex-wife's messages for a while, but she didn't seem willing to give up. She started writing more often, with messages ranging from casual to clearly manipulative. "I know things ended badly, but I'd really like to see you. Talk about what happened. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I'm so sorry about how things turned out. I know you hate me, but if you could give me a chance to explain." Each message was more desperate than the last. They went from seeming like simple attempts at contact to barely disguised pleas. She started calling me, but I never answered. I didn't want anything to do with her. I thought that eventually she would get tired and leave me alone. But I was wrong. One afternoon, while I was working in my office, the receptionist told me I had an unexpected visitor. I didn't have any scheduled appointments, so I was surprised. When I approached the reception area, I felt a chill of disgust and anger when I saw who was standing there. It was her, dressed in an elegant outfit with impeccable makeup, as if she wanted to impress someone. Her expression upon seeing me was a mixture of nostalgia and something that at one time I would have mistaken for love, but now I only saw as pure convenience. "Hi," she said with a nervous smile. I looked at her with a completely neutral expression. I didn't want to give her any satisfaction in thinking she still had some kind of effect on me. "What are you doing here?" I asked curtly. She sighed and looked around, as if she wanted to make sure no one was listening. "I just want to talk to you. I promise it's nothing bad. I just want us to be able to talk like two adults." I want to laugh in her face. Talk like two adults? After the way she abandoned me? We have nothing to talk about. I turned around and headed back to my office, but she followed me. "Please, just give me 5 minutes. I beg you." I stopped and looked at her. Something in her voice sounded different. It wasn't just insistence, it was desperation. "5 minutes," I crossed my arms. "And then you leave." She nodded quickly and followed me into the office. I sat down across from her without saying anything, waiting for her to speak. "I know I hurt you, and there are no excuses for what I did. But I was wrong." I didn't answer. I want to see how far she would go with her speech. Things aren't what I thought they would be. I thought he would give me the life I always dreamed of. But it wasn't like that. Of course it wasn't. Regret? It wasn't remorse for treating me like garbage. It was because her plan hadn't worked out as expected. I looked at her in silence for a long moment. Then I asked her the only question that mattered. "Did he leave you?" Her face paled. The way her face paled when I asked if her new man had left her gave me all the answers I needed. It wasn't a sincere reunion or an attempt at redemption. She wasn't looking for me because she had suddenly discovered she loved me. She was looking for me because her plan to live a life of luxury with another man had failed. She sighed, avoiding my gaze. Her body language said it all. She lowered her head, clasped her hands in her lap, and took a few seconds to answer. "No, not exactly." "What does not exactly mean?" I asked with a sarcastic half-smile, enjoying for the first time in a long time having the upper hand in a conversation with her. She bit her lip, as if debating between telling me the truth or trying to disguise it with lies. In the end, she seemed to decide on honesty, or at least a version of it. Things weren't what I thought. He was different. Different, right? Different how? She swallowed. At first, everything seemed perfect. He had money, took me to beautiful places, bought expensive things. He promised me stability, told me he wanted to take care of me. She paused for a moment, and I saw her jaw tense. But over time, he changed. He became cold. He started treating me like I was just another accessory in his life. He made me feel like I owed him something for being with him. And when I stopped being useful to him, he simply left me. I felt a pang of satisfaction. Not because I enjoyed seeing her suffer, but because it was proof that karma, one way or another, always found a way to settle accounts. "So now that you have nowhere to go, you come looking for me," I said without annoyance in my voice, simply stating the fact. She opened her mouth to protest, but stopped. She knew it was true. "I know I have no right to ask you for anything," she said softly. "But I've been thinking a lot about us, about how I messed everything up." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Seriously?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. You realize that just now. She pressed her lips together, annoyed with my reaction. For years, she had been the one in control of our relationship. Now that the tables had turned, she didn't know how to handle it. I wouldn't laugh if I were you. You don't know how hard it's been for me. That was funny. Hard. I raised an eyebrow. You? The one who abandoned me when I needed her most? The one who left me for another guy with money? The one who treated me like I was a failure instead of supporting me? She had no defense, and I wasn't going to give her an easy way out. Look at you now, I continued. You're sitting here in front of me because you have no other choice. It's not because you miss me. It's not because you're truly sorry. It's because you realized you have nothing. A heavy silence filled the room. Finally, she looked up and met my eyes, filled with a mixture of shame and frustration. So, is this no? I tilted my head, pretending to consider the question. You know what? I said lightly. I could consider forgiving you. We could start over. I could be the understanding man you so desire. Her face lit up with hope, but I wasn't finished. But I won't. The hope vanished from her face in an instant. What you did is irreversible. You treated me like trash when I needed you most. And now that I'm the one in a better position, you want to come back. I'm sorry, but I don't owe you anything anymore. Her lip trembled, as if she wanted to argue, but she had no more arguments. She stood up slowly, her dignity shattered, and walked to the door. You'll regret this, she murmured before leaving. Seeing my ex-wife walk out of my office with her head down was an indescribable feeling. Not because I enjoyed seeing her defeated, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had complete control of my life. I was no longer the desperate man who lost his job and was abandoned without the slightest remorse. Now, I was in a position I never imagined, successful, stable, and completely free of her. But although I thought it was all over there, I couldn't have been more wrong. The messages soon returned. First, they were subtle attempts at emotional manipulation. You don't know what you're doing. We could still be happy together. I know that deep down you still love me. You just need to realize that we made mistakes. Everyone deserves a second chance. Or have you never made a mistake? Then the messages took a more aggressive turn when she saw that I wasn't responding. Are you really that spiteful? You are nobody without me. Don't kid yourself. You were always a resentful and mediocre man. You just got lucky. I had to block her. But even that didn't stop her. About a week after our last conversation, a mutual friend sent me an unexpected message. Hey, is it true what your ex is saying? I frowned. What is she saying? She's going around saying that you cheated on her first, that you were psychologically abusive, and that's why she left you. I let out an incredulous laugh. Seriously? Yeah. And the worst part is she's telling it with exaggerated details. Some people already believe her. I put a hand to my face and sighed. It was ridiculous. After abandoning me for someone else, she was now trying to make me look like the villain. I wasn't going to stand idly by. If she wanted to smear my name, she was going to get a response that would make her regret it. I talked to some of the people I had in common with her and told them the truth. Most of them already distrusted her version, but when I showed them proof, the messages she had been sending me, begging me to take her back, the lie completely crumbled. It wasn't long before the story reached her current social circle and her new life, the one she was trying to rebuild after her relationship with her lover failed, fell apart. I received another message from her. Are you happy now? You took everything from me. I didn't answer. She took everything from herself. She had destroyed me when I needed her most, thinking I would never recover, that I would be trapped in misery while she lived her life without worries. I thought that after all the drama, my ex would finally leave me alone. But I was wrong again. A few weeks after blocking her everywhere, cutting off any possible connection with her, I encountered an unexpected surprise. She showed up at my office again. I didn't let her in this time. Instead of receiving her, I asked the receptionist to tell her I wasn't available. But instead of leaving, she stayed in the waiting room. Waiting. After almost an hour, I asked security to escort her out of the building. But before the guards arrived, she left an envelope at the reception desk and left. When I opened it, I found a handwritten letter. Don't hate me. I'm not messed up. I know I hurt you, but I never meant to cause you pain. I was just scared. Scared of losing my stability, of facing the possibility of being left with nothing. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because I thought we wouldn't survive that situation together, and I was wrong. When I saw you move on without me, when I saw you achieve everything I always wanted for us, I realized my mistake. But it was too late. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I never stopped thinking about you. No matter what happens, you'll always be the love of my life. Forgive me. I laughed, not with happiness, not with satisfaction, but with the absurdity of it all. After everything she did she really think a few cheesy lines would erase everything? I didn't care. I no longer felt anger, pain, or even contempt, just indifference. She was nothing to me anymore. I threw the letter in the trash and moved on with my life. But the story didn't end there. A month later, I received a call from an unknown number. Hello. A female voice spoke timidly. Who is this? I'm your ex-wife's sister. I was silent for a moment. I had no idea why she was calling me. I had never had a close relationship with her family, so this couldn't be a coincidence. What's wrong? I asked, keeping my distance. I know you have no reason to want to hear from her, but I'm worried. Worried she's bad. Really bad. I sighed. It's not my problem. I know, she said quickly. I'm not asking you to do anything. I just thought you should know. Why? She hesitated a moment before answering. Because I think deep down, you still care. I hung up without responding. For days, I tried to ignore the call from my ex's sister. I tried to convince myself that I didn't care, that it was no longer my problem. But no matter how hard I tried, the idea that she was bad, really bad, stuck in my head like a thorn. Not because I felt love for her. That was already dead. But I had shared years of my life with that woman. We had built something together, even though she had destroyed it. And although I didn't want to admit it, a part of me wanted to know what had happened to her. One day, while running errands in town, I happened to pass by an area we used to frequent together. And there, sitting alone on a park bench, I saw her. She didn't look like the woman who had abandoned me for money. She wasn't wearing elegant clothes or impeccable makeup or that haughty attitude she used to carry like armor. She was thin, pale, with messy hair and deep, dark circles that spoke of sleepless nights. I stopped at a distance. Something in me told me I should keep walking, ignore her, move on with my life. But against my better judgment, I walked towards her. When she saw me, her expression changed from surprise to shame. You, she murmured. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. She let out a bitter laugh. I suppose you see me now and think I deserve this. I didn't respond. I'm not here to judge. She lowered her gaze and fiddled with her hands nervously. I lost everything, she whispered. Everything. I nodded. It wasn't a surprise. What happened? She sighed, as if she didn't want to tell me, but at the same time needed to vent. After he left me, I tried to move on, but no one wanted to help me. I lost friendships. I lost my stability. And when I tried to look for a job, I realized I'd spent years depending on someone else to survive. I had nothing. She paused and rubbed her face with both hands, frustrated. I spent all my savings on rent. But when I ran out of money, I ended up in a shared apartment with a girl I barely know. I barely make enough money to survive. I remained silent for a moment, not because what she said hurt me, but because I found it incredible how life could turn around like this. And why did you look for me? I asked. She laughed bitterly. Don't you really know? I didn't answer. I wanted her to say it out loud. She shook her head and looked at me intently. Because you're the only person who really cared about me. And I was an idiot to leave you. She waited for me to say something, to react, to show some kind of emotion. But I didn't. Do you regret it? I finally said. She nodded sadly. Very much. There was a time when those words would have meant something to me. Well, I would have dreamed of hearing her say she was wrong, that she wanted to be with me again. But now I only felt indifference. I got up from the bench. I hope you find a way to get through this, I said, looking at her one last time. She looked at me desperately. Is that all? Yes, I replied without hesitation. What would you do in this situation? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button, to make sure it works.